In this episode, we speak with Karl Ulfers, the co-founder and CEO of DUOS, a technology-enabled service provider that connects people to the essential resources required to attain the highest level of health. After personal experiences with his grandparent, Karl realized that healthcare was simply not optimized for the complexities of aging. Founded in 2021, DUOS was created to form trusted relationships with older adults using technology and community to support fulfilling lives at home. Before DUOS, Karl Ulfers was the CEO of Meru Health, where he started to notice the needs of the aging population. More than 20 million customers currently have access to the Meru platform. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Karl, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's a delight to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on and getting the chance to share the amazing mission we're going after here at DUOS.
Digital health is an area we love to talk about. There's a lot happening in this space, a lot of great companies that are growing and scaling. Maybe for the benefit of our audience, tell us what DUOS does.
So DUOS we founded in 2020. So it's just been our 4-year anniversary for the company. And DUOS is really focused on working with older adult populations to help them not just add a number of years to their life, but actually add life to those years. And we do that by working with these individuals through their Medicare Advantage plans. And when we engage with these individuals, we're really fundamentally doing two things. The first is we're helping them get the financial resources that they need to help them address their social determinants on health. Things like helping them get food, helping them get transportation, helping their home be a safe place to live in. And then the second thing that we do is we actually help those individuals, once we've dealt with those barriers, get access to the quality of care that they deserve. So yeah, that's really what we've been focused on here for the last 4 years.
That's amazing. And it seems like if you took a look across the United States, you would see maybe an aging population that may be living on their own in homes and maybe in suburban and rural areas. Is that an area? I mean, how big is that segment? And then either percentage-wise or raw numbers? And then is that what you're targeting?
That is exactly what we're targeting. And to think about how big the gap is, I like to think not just about the desire for older adults that want to live on their own. The vast majority of older adults want to live on their own. What I like to really focus in is the need of those older adults to really understand the system that's supposed to be there to help them. And that system is their Medicare Advantage benefit. It's the state, federal, and VA programs that are there. And the reality is the vast majority of older adults, they don't understand that system and they don't know how to use it. So to just give you some real data, we find that 5 out of every 10 members that we work with, who, by the way, are coming from Medicare Advantage plans, don't actually know about the Medicare Advantage supplemental benefits that they have that can help them from a day-to-day perspective. Additionally, we find if we ask those individuals, do you know about them? 5 out of 10 say no. If we say, do you know about them? And they say yes. Do you know how to use them? Another 3 say, I don't even know how to use them. So we're talking about 8 out of every 10 older adults does not know how to tap into, again, those Medicare Advantage benefits and then other, state and federal benefits that are out there that they really, frankly, need to improve their quality of life.
And I'd imagine that upon hearing what DUOS does, you'd get immediate uptake. Like you'd get this population of older people saying like, okay, I need that. Like I need that app on my phone, like right now. Have you seen that kind of adoption?
Yeah, our payer partners have been really excited about this. So just to put in real numbers, typically, when payers roll out programs like this, and they tend to have a more clinical bent to them, they see like 5 to 7% adoption rates. We, like clockwork now on each of our deployments this year, have been getting 15% plus of a payer population using DUOS. And we don't count somebody as an active user in DUOS until not only have they come to us and set up an account and are using our experience, but we have to actually be helping them solve either one of those social determinant health needs they have or helping them get an appointment for care. So we have a pretty high bar in terms of what we consider to be an activated user. And you're spot on. Once people hear about the program and hear about how we can put money in their wallet through these benefits and government programs and get care set up for them, it's a really nice virtuous loop in terms of the user populations that we're servicing.
We'll get into your background. You've got a great background rising through corporate and then rising through Rally. Was this problem that you're addressing through DUOS, was it so obvious to you? And so like the decision to start the company was almost like instantaneous?
I would say the reason, if I think about why did I start DUOS, why did I go to the earliest stage of a business and start it from the ground up? It was a couple of things. First, you got to have real passion for a problem if you're going to take the risk of starting something from the ground up. And for me, that passion was fueled by the fact that I've actually got two grandparents. My dad's parents are both alive and they're 95 years old. And so I've gotten to see firsthand just how challenging, again, that system is. But passion alone won't create a sustainable business. And so the other thing that I looked for when we were thinking about the business was, what are the market dynamics that are going on that would cause you to believe that a business could be viable in this space? And for me, it was basically three things that I looked at as, we made the decision to go after this business and, got the support of the investors, the amazing investors that we've had in the business. The first is it a big enough problem, right? And the answer is absolutely. We have more and more older adults due to the baby boom generation every single day. About 10,000 per day are becoming 65. By the way, that's also why you'll never hear me use the term senior. Boomers don't want to be called boomers and they don't want to be called seniors. They want to just be referred to as older adults. So that's the first thing is there a big enough problem? The second thing is there a market viable way to actually access the market? And in our case, that means, is there a customer that we can sell to get access to these older adults and caregivers? And the answer there was yes. Through these Medicare Advantage plans, there was a pretty clear way for us to get access to this market. And then the third thing is there a pressing need in that population for a solution like DUOS? And we felt very passionately that there was in terms of the older adult and caregiver need, but we also felt from a business perspective, it was going to be absolutely critical. And we felt that way because you've got a couple of things going on. You've got this massive aging population. You also have a working population that's shrinking. So we're going to have more people over 65 than under 18 for the first time ever, sometime in the early 2030s. And you have a sector that, frankly, historically speaking, just has not gotten a lot of attention from a technology perspective, especially from a consumer-facing technology standpoint. And so for all those reasons, we felt it was really important to build a company in this space to try to help make the world a little better place in our small little way.
Now let's turn to your professional background. It seems like when reviewing, maybe even from graduating college and then all the way up to present day, like you've been able to get into organizations and be promoted sequentially fairly quickly. Yeah. It seems that the higher ups probably realize like you're a talented individual and you can help. You went all the way to the CEO level at Rally Health, but just tell us a little bit about your background and how you've approached kind of working and maybe even like navigating companies.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've been able to have some success in business because there's one thing I always try to focus my time and effort on, and that's the intersection of business needs and the people that use those businesses and identifying pain points for both those people as well as for those businesses because of new market advancements that they've done that perhaps have made it really hard and challenging, and unique individuals that are trying to use their services. And so I've really spent my career sort of trying to sit in that intersection between market and business need, end user and consumer needs, and figuring out how you deploy technology to solve those problems. I, don't typically focus my time on like how you could deploy a lot of operations and that type of way, because it's a way to solve the problem, but it's not super scalable. And so I think because of that mindset that I frankly have had since pretty early in my career, it's allowed me to chase after some really challenging, meaningful business problems. And that's sort of like the mindset side of it, the strategy side of it. The team side of it is I grew up my entire life playing sports, and you learn a lot of hard lessons in sports, right? And one of those hard lessons is you're never as good as you think you are. And number two, there's always going to be way more talented people than yourself, which is the nature of sports. So the best way to build a great team and have success in sports is to get the best individuals around you. And I would say that's the second key theme of my career is I've always really looked to, okay, what am I good at? And then how do I find amazing people that also are passionate about, the problem set that I'm going after? And how do I get them onto my team so that we can make a meaningful dent against this problem set? And yeah, as a result of that, that's helped me, navigate and find some success in my career.
So what I'm gathering is that maybe you choose to focus on what you're best at, you, so to speak, stay in your lane. And is that lane more the product focus?
Yeah, so that's where it started. Absolutely. So where I realized I could add the greatest amount of value was that intersection between what's the business need, what's the market asking for, and then what are the people that we're servicing within that business need and market. And it's so target rich in healthcare, and it's very mission oriented in healthcare. Then how do I actually build a roadmap, align technology resources, get people energized and fired up, both inside the company, but also outside, that what we're doing is going to make a real impact. That's where it started from a career perspective. And then where it evolved to, over the course, I would say, of the last 10 years, due to some, really incredible mentors that I've had, is to be able to take a step back from just doing that and figure out, okay, how do I actually make this sustainable from a financial perspective? And that's been a really fun addition from a career perspective to add to the mix, and sustainable in two ways. Number one, how do you get investors fired up and believing that they want to deploy capital because you are going to do good with that capital, both financially as well as from a mission perspective? And then the second part of that, which is equally important, is learning how to do the financial modeling underneath that to make sure that the way you're building the company, the way you're interacting with the market is ultimately sustainable, right? That it ultimately can have the business model and therefore the financial margins to actually be able to survive on its own within the market. And so that has been the intersection of sort of those three things over the course of my career, coupled with my really strong belief in building incredible teams, has worked well for me.
I'm curious because you're addressing a huge market need. And when we think about various companies that are emerging growth and raising capital, some go to the ends of raising hundreds of millions of dollars. Seems like you've been a little bit more modest and prudent. How would you characterize the way you would like to grow the company over time?
Thank you for that observation. That's definitely something I take some pride in. I mean, look, we haven't bootstrapped the company, right? So there are people that do that, and that is its own really special skill set. But what we have done is we have grown through venture capital. But to your point, we've tried to be very prudent in how we actually use that venture capital. And so here's how I think about, I would say, I'm going to answer two different questions in what you just asked. One is, how do we find product market fit? And then how do we grow from product market fit? So you have to be really careful about the idea of what I always describe, I love to ski, as like a false front, like something that you think is going to be a great downhill or a great uphill. But in reality, it's just like a little pitch, and then there's plateaus after that. So what I will say is, in the early days of the company, we really tried to focus on where that product market fit was and how to get there. It took us about 3 years to really find where the product market fit was for this business. And that is to say, we didn't do it perfectly, right? So there was a couple of points in the business where we thought that we had found the product market fit, but they turned out to be false fronts. And so what that means is you have to be flexible in your mindset around how you scale up your team and how you bring the team back down until you actually get to the real product market fit. That mechanism of scaling up and then sometimes having to scale back down, that's a hard one, and it's hard for people to do, but for the good of the business and frankly, the good of the people that are trying to create the business, it's one you have to be comfortable with. And then once you've found product market fit, it's a really interesting world, right? Because you basically have two options once you've found product market fit, provided that you've done your business modeling, right? And you've made it sustainable. Option one is you can self-sustain at that point, and you can self-invest. You can take growth that you're using, you can use that to generate it into your sales team, into your R&D team, and you can stay very disciplined and you can keep growing at a really healthy rate. So that's one option. And one option that might be what we do as our next phase of the business. The other option is to find like-minded investors that really see the value in what you've done and have a shared idea of what you're trying to create and allow you to deploy capital that will be used for both organically R&D and advancing your mission that way, but also inorganically deploying capital to find other companies that are complementary that you can bring into the fold to help propel the mission forward. And so that's how I look at growth. Either way, you got to grow, because the only way to have an impact with your mission is growth, both from a people you serve as well as a financial standpoint. And then you really do have two options provided you've got the business modeling, right? It's to organically grow and just, self-fund it yourself, or really supercharge it by finding the right investors that face the business.
So how do you make the decision between the two options? There's one that seems like it's more manageable, you could breathe easier. The other one, it's going to be like, okay, I'm putting more pressure on myself, but it could be more exciting. How do you make that decision?
To me, it all comes back to the addressable market, and truly your addressable market, right? I think oftentimes people can create these huge numbers and they lose track of, the old business school technique of TAM, SAM, and SUM, and what your actual obtainable market is. And so that's the way that, I'm wrestling with this choice right now as we speak. And so the thing that I have to get real conviction in is that not only can we continue to grab the attainable market of the business as it is today, but can I also expand and broaden the mission and the impact of the business by adding in either deeper services in what we do or expand markets that we're going after? And then you have to, again, answer that really hard question of, can you build a business model while you do that allows the business to be self-sustainable? The one thing I'll say, though, that is so critical as you do that, and this is the litmus test I'm always using against myself, and I have my board and my other advisors, mentors in my life do the same, is it's easy to be academic about it. It's easy to build the spreadsheet around it. It's easy to put a really cool PowerPoint about that strategy. But the litmus test I always use is, does it make sense to the people in the ecosystem that we're servicing? Am I going to create more value for that older adult? Am I going to create more value for the provider that serves that older adult? Am I going to create additional value streams for the payer that's paying for our services? And if I can't do all three of those things, the older adult, the provider, and the payer, then the strategy probably isn't as good as I think it is when I model it out on a spreadsheet. And I do think that is absolutely critical, because it's very easy to fall in love with a business model on a spreadsheet and lose track of the people in the market that you're supposed to be impacting.
I'd like to go back to something earlier that you said about product market fit, where it seemed like you thought you had it, but you didn't really have it. There's a spectrum of product market fit. I feel like there's like the loose product market fit. There's the one that works for a while, but then fades away. And then there's the real one that sustains. So how did you know when you had real product market fit?
Again, this is where you just have to be super intellectually honest. So in our space of B to B to C, right? Like, I got to sell to a Medicare Advantage payer, and then I've got to engage that Medicare Advantage payer's older adults and the caregivers around them with our service. And I would say there's two ways, right? The first is, am I seeing meaningful demand and growth from the market for our services to the point that I can be self-sustainable? And the answer for us in this phase has been, yeah, we're going to be to a point where we are better than a break-even business and we can be self-sustainable on our own. So it's like real meaningful revenue pull-through and growth from the market is the first sign. The second sign, though, is that being driven by something that is durable and sustainable for the market? And to do that, you've got to have the good for the member, good for the payer balance on the value proposition. And that's how we knew in this case that we had gotten to the right product market fit. And by the way, by no means do we consider ourselves to be done. Like, we are just at the start of continuing to evolve against the big market that we have now found our fit for. But it's two things, right? So in our case, it was, are we meaningfully getting dollars in the hands of those older adults through these Medicare Advantage benefits and government programs? And then are we actually improving their access to care, specifically preventative care, things like annual wellness visits and preventative care screenings? And so that's where I now consider us to have product market fit, because we can answer, yes, we are doing that. And those things are the things that then generate value through the STARS bonuses and better risk management for payers by doing so. So that's really how we knew we were a product market fit. It wasn't just that we were getting a big growth spurt of the business. It's that we were doing good for the people that we were engaging with. And that good we were doing for the people we were engaging with was doing good for the financials of payers that are paying us for our services.
We're entering into the tail end of the conversation, but I have one final question before I ask the final two. And that is, what is the best advice you have ever received?
What's the best advice I have ever received? All right. So I'm going to go back to some advice I got. I was the summer after my freshman year of college, actually, I think is when the conversation happened. And I played hockey my whole life. And there was a guy that I played hockey with whose dad was a really good hockey and football player, but also ended up becoming a really good CEO and very successful. But he hadn't come from money. He worked his way to that success. So I was talking to him. I was at a barbecue, and I asked him, I said, what would you say was the thing that was most important to your success in you becoming a CEO? And he said, well, when I got done with sports, I really didn't know what I was doing. He was a high level D1 athlete, but he didn't go pro. And he's like, I didn't really know what I was doing. But what I did know is that what had always worked for me is I tried to be the absolute best at whatever I had done. And then he went on to say, like, my first job was not very glamorous. It was like a pick up the phone, telemarket to people type of thing. But he's like, my goal was to be the best at that. And so that really stuck with me. And it sounds so simple, right? It sounds so simple, but to really live that level of like excellence, you have to put in a lot of work. You have to not just put in work ethic, but you have to learn how to work smart and keep yourself educated on the market you're going after. And so that honestly, it was like some of the best advice I had gotten. And then the other piece of advice I would just share is, one of my really good mentors is David Coe, who's CEO of Calm. David was president at Meru Health, and he and I worked really, really closely together. David was one of these people that was really important to me in understanding the dynamics of not just being good at product, but also being good at building teams, also the financial models associated with what you were building for the market to ultimately make it very sustainable. But the biggest thing I learned from David is the power of the team, the power of the community, of the people that are pushing your mission forward. The team first mindset, even though I kind of learned it all throughout my life in sports, really deeply owning that from a business perspective was, I would say, also right up there in terms of the most important things I learned from an advice perspective.
And in relation to the team topic, are you hybrid culture, remote, in person? What is it?
We are a hybrid. So we have an office. We have a small office here in Minneapolis. We also have a small office in Northern Virginia. We prefer if people come in 2-3 times a week, but it's not a mandate, right? I feel like if I have to mandate that people come in, there's something wrong with the culture, and that I got to take ownership of that. That's not on those people. And so, yeah, I come in the office every single day. I've got a wife and 3 kids, and it's chaos at home with our large dog. So I come in almost every single day. But our expectation is, let's just try to be here 2 to 3 times a week. And, just to give you an idea of like the type of culture we have, pretty much every Sunday night, there's like a Minnesota channel, and there's a Bethesda, which is where our other office is, Maryland channel. And people will just get on and be like, hey, I'm going to come in these days. And other people will be like, oh, I'm going to come in these days. Let's make sure we match up our schedule together. But it's organic. It's ingrained within the culture. It's not a mandate. It's not a top-down dictation for me. It's just about the culture, and we all like working together.
Awesome. One of the final 2 questions I think you may have answered already, which is a person who has had a profound influence on you. You mentioned a couple of them. So last question, can you tell us about a charity, cause, or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
Yeah, I'll actually give you 2 if that's okay. So the charity cause that I'm most proud of here at DUOS, and I encourage people to check it out, is called, we just actually won an award for it from a marketing perspective, but it's called Connections for a Cause. So we do quite a bit of work at events. We find that the most impactful marketing thing that we can do outside of thought leadership, that's the most important thing. But the second most important thing is event marketing at small conferences where the people that buy our services tend to go to. And when you go to these conferences, just like any conference in the world, you get all these little like tchotchkes, like pens and other stuff that are handed out. Our team, Jen Kerfoot and her right hand, Courtney Best, came up with this incredible concept called Connections for a Cause, where rather than us giving away junk, right, that's going to end up in the landfill, we took the money that we would spend on that marketing collateral, and we find different partners that will match that money. And then when people come to our booth, we actually have, like, you can think of it as a Plinko board built into the booth, and they drop a coin, and where the coin ends up then determines how much money that they get donated to the charity that we pick. And typically the charities either align to our mission. For example, we've done things with US Hunger as an example. We've also picked local charities that are near the event that we're doing. Or we've worked with organizations like Psych Armor, where we're donating to help for the mental health of the veterans of our country. So that cause, I'm super, super proud of. This is a great, example where, again, that wasn't my idea, right? That was my team's idea. And it just aligns so beautifully to our mission of what we're trying to get done and doing good in the communities that we serve. I'm super, super proud of it. And then I would say on the other side of things, I've got 3 girls. They all play fast pitch softball in the summers. Unfortunately, in Minneapolis, we've got some pretty big gender inequities that have occurred and resulted in Title IX that we were part of. But through 612 Fast Pitch, which is the nonprofit fast pitch organization, a group of us have worked really hard to start to fight those inequities and get adequate playing conditions for the girls. And so I'm very proud of the work that we've done in that space. And we're just starting to get the fruits of our labor on that. But it's been a really long journey. But it's always great whenever you can directly impact the community that you live in. So that's another one.
That's awesome. And we'll add links to both those organizations in the show notes. Karl, I want to thank you again for taking the time. This has been awesome.
Awesome. No, I appreciate what you're doing. And like I said, I mean it when I say it. Anybody who's taking the time to talk with organizations like ours and give us visibility in the market, we're truly grateful for, because your job is not that different than my job. Like you're like getting this thing going from the ground. And I'm very grateful for it.
Thank you too.